welcome to the next one. So in this one I'm going to be talking about how did I learn the language and overcome language barriers, because Chinese is a very different language than English. In fact, a lot of Asian languages are very challenging for most Westerners or non-Asians. So how did I do it? Well, prior to going to China, I had taken a couple conversational Mandarin classes at my local community college. And this was many years before I decided to go to China, even before I was working at the last job that I had. And at the time, part of the reason I was doing it is I had a Taiwanese girlfriend, so I figured if I knew a little bit of Mandarin, it would be easier for us to talk in her language or something close to it, and I know Taiwanese dialect and Mandarin are pretty different, but they're fairly discernible. A lot of the words are kind of the same, the grammar's about the same. The written is a little different, since Taiwanese uses more of the traditional characters and Mandarin has more simplified, but they can understand, people of both sides can understand each other. So I figured, let me take a couple conversational classes, plus I liked the culture and the language, so why not pick it up? So I had that under my belt, even after we broke up, and I still kind of every so often will review it in my head, or just pick up whatever I could passively. So by the time I went to China, I had at least some foundation, for the language, or at least the sounds, and I could read Pinyin, which was great. And I highly recommend everybody learning Pinyin first. Forget characters, learn Pinyin. If you understand Pinyin, if you know how to read it, and don't worry about tones, focus just on pronouncing it correctly, and tones will come later, and if they don't, it doesn't matter. People will understand you. You'll be able to pick up a dictionary, be able to look up a word, find it, read it. Oh, this is how I pronounce it. Boom, instantly. So that's one thing that helped me, learning Pinyin. The other thing that helped me greatly was, and this was something my friend suggested, if you need to take a taxi from one place to another, you should keep some index cards, have one of the staff members or one of the students or a friend write down the name of the place in characters, in Pinyin, and then write down the English. So if, let's say, you wanted to go to Galaxy Mall, you write down Galaxy Mall on one side or on the top. You have them write Yingheguo, Guangzhang, and in the Pinyin, and then the characters. That way when you get in a taxi, if you can't vocalize it, or can't vocalize it well, or the taxi driver is maybe from a different province, or he can't understand Mandarin, which does happen, I want to go here. They'll look at it, and 9 times out of 10 they'll know exactly where you want to go, and they'll take you there. So that helped me quite a lot. In terms of ordering in restaurants, the one thing that I liked a lot in Asia was that a lot of restaurants have picture menus. So you don't even need to learn the language. You can just look and say, oh, that looks like, that chicken looks good. Done. Same thing, gestures go a long way. If you need the bill, you just say. So, easy. And a lot of language is context anyway. So, if you've eaten, they know that you're going to ask for the bill, or you're going to ask for dessert. So 50-50. The other thing too is making friends with a lot of the locals helps you to both passively and actively practice language. So you go out with people, since there's a certain order in which things across any society happen. So whether it's a telephone conversation, or, like I said, the process at a restaurant, you're going to hear language at certain points, and it's going to be tied to the situation generally. So that's one way. If you hear somebody, you say to your Chinese friend, hey, you should probably pay the bill, and probably going to raise their hand and go, Fuyuan, Maidan, server, like to pay, or Fuyuan, Jiejiang. Another way that I learned was reverse engineering as I was teaching. So one of the things you'll notice when you're teaching students is they're going to make the same mistakes over and over. Or you're teaching them a particular grammar lesson or vocabulary lesson, you're generally going to hear them vocalize that in their native language. So if you ask them, hey, how do I use this grammar? You'll sometimes hear them under their breath say the Chinese, because they're translating the whole thing in their head, which they shouldn't, but it kind of helps you. So they'll say it in Chinese and then turn around and say it in English. Or if they get confused, you'll hear them say, oh, 什么意思? Which means, what does it mean? So as you're learning the language, and as you're teaching them, and as you're seeing different scenarios play out and where language comes in, all of that is a great opportunity to absorb it and soak it up. And that's what helped me a lot. Now, finding a teacher is also a great thing. I did find a teacher who happened to be in my same building who had students that she would tutor on a regular basis in both Chinese and in English. So I would go to her classes. I'd have a private class. She'd go through characters, go through some set phrases. We had a book that we could work on, so that was another great way to practice. And obviously if you have Chinese friends or local friends in whatever country you're in, that's another good way, just talking with them, using whatever little language you know in conversations with them and in different situations, right? Yeah. So those are the ways that I got through the language barrier issue. Or, last one that I didn't mention is, if you have that Chinese friend or someone who knows the language, and you need to accomplish a task, let's say find an apartment, or book a hotel stay or whatnot, you can have them translate for you until you get up to speed. So that's how you overcome the language barrier in another country. See you on the next video.